It's a sad reality of the games industry that no matter how deserving a game is, they may never get a sequel. No matter the genre, series, or demand, some games just aren't meant to be, it seems. Even when some games have questions that are insane and fester in your brain as to what the answer could be. Even as people rear their heads and yell to the skies for justice to be delivered, most of the time, it simply won't be. Whether it be developers, critics, money, or more, we're here to mourn 5 game sequels that we probably won't be getting. Even indie devs can suffer from various issues, sometimes even worse than that of AAA studios. Maybe not to the same degree, maybe not as often, but when an indie dev goes off the rails and takes their sequel with them, it is a sight to behold. A sad sight, but no use getting emotional over spilled water effects. Fez was an interesting puzzle platformer that was heralded as one of the best indie games of all time. It took advantage of two-dimensional mixed with a literal 3D twist to the perspective, and you solved puzzles by shifting the two-dimensional perspectives around to see more, or simply see the same geometry the right way to progress. And even had puzzles so difficult we still don't know how they were meant to be solved. It was charming, fun, and simply enjoyable. And fans rejoiced when a sequel was confirmed in June of 2013. Sadly, one of, if not the most important members of the team, Phil Fish, had a Twitter tirade against the gaming industry, potentially aided by criticisms from Marcus Beer on his game trailer show back in the day. This tirade only seemed to garner him more criticism and fuel the fire of those who sought to mock his behavior. Fish's veritable tantrum ended with a proclamation that Fez 2 was cancelled. He was taking his money ball and going home, leaving the video game industry entirely. And so he did, much to the surprise of his supporters and even his own team. To his credit, he did say that it was more than just the industry that fueled his decision, but I do remember him being quite melodramatic over the whole thing. Either way, he left, and since then, the only things Fez have been ports for basically every platform possible. Not a peep of Fez 2 has been heard all these years later, and now it's far too late for Fez 2 to happen in my opinion. If it can even happen at all, depending on all those legalities. Not only has it been too long, but any attempt to release a sequel will only remind people of Fish and his angry exit from the industry. With every mention of Fez, I will forever be reminded of the darkest point in time for the dev team. So, Fez 2 is now and forever lost to time, as any attempt now would be too little, too late, that would just bring to mind more drama than anything else. Guns! Explosions! Babies! Gunning down aliens with guns galore, humor, and so much more. Riding the hype of Doom and coming forth from its 2D origins, Duke Nukem 3D took gaming by storm. All serenaded by the voice of Big the Cat.
Oh, goody!
A sequel was announced and eventually became a legend. Because of the legendary development hell it was stuck in. Constant reworks, engine changes, developer changes, and a big member of the game's team constantly wanting to add in the latest things and trends in gaming damned Duke's new game to forever be late and old. And now the best thing we can say about Duke Nukem Forever is that they did honor Ancient as Hell pre-order agreements. But that and the first level are pretty much the only good things to come from Duke Nukem Forever. That and 15 years of hype decay. That alone is why any potential Duke Nukem game of the future will never happen. The brand's name and reputation is tarnished by 15 years of hell that resulted in a big bag of nothing. Any attempt to revive Duke Nukem would more than likely be met with trepidation and would require a legendary comeback to earn back any respect and trust. But no, all we have now is a cameo in Bulletstorm, which was a minor footnote that led to nothing bad, nothing good, only nostalgic memories of better times and even worse times. The main reason we won't be seeing Duke Nukem return to video games, at least not for a long time, is because Duke Nukem is more known for Nukem Forever than any of the other games in his backlog. Hell! It's a common occurrence for people to be shocked by the fact Duke started as a 2D platformer. It's like if the most well-known Star Wars movie was the holiday special. No more would have been made! But let us take a moment, just a moment, to remember the better times, and hope beyond hope that Duke Nukem may someday rise from the ashes, no matter how unlikely it may be. Speaking of Star Wars games are almost always big, whether they be silly dance games to movie tie-ins, to fully original games that gave us character and adventure. And really, I could put all Star Wars games made before the Disney acquisition to this spot, but I want to focus on a specific one that is done pretty well in public knowledge, and is one that would warrant at least some level of conclusion that we know will never happen. And that game is Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Not to be confused with Force Awakens. In more ways than one, I might add. For the uninitiated, you take control of Vader's secret Sith apprentice who becomes torn as his mission progresses and his faith in his master wanes compared to the trust he has in his companions as he hunts down Jedi or makes rebellions on Vader's command. You know, the Sith usual. At least until the sequel where he becomes a clone and things go off the rails. The odd thing is, if there was only one Force Unleashed game, then it wouldn't be on this list, as the first game had a nice arc and solid ending that tied lightly to canon without changing too much as far as I see, so you could play it and choose whether or not you thought it belonged in the canon for you, with a sequel that also kinda ties into the canon, only much more loosely, and had an ending that demands to be answered. I would avoid spoilers, but it's not like a sequel's coming, so screw it. Force Unleashed 2 ends with the rebellion capturing Darth Vader. And the craft is followed by Boba Fett, and that's it! No idea how Vader gets out of the situation, no idea where Starkiller and Juno go from there, just poof. But what's extra sad is these two games had decent DLC. That were arguably better than the main game stories, if only due to Obi-Wan Force Ghost killing. True fans knew before the return of Puppet Yoda that Force Ghosts were badass. And a Jedi Leia that blew Last Jedi out of the water, even if she dies. Irony! These games, while not the best, were lots of fun, interesting, and built upon the world at best, or were just dumb fun at worst. And while the games didn't do amazing in terms of review or sales, according to the most accurate place of information, Wikipedia, there was some talk of there being a third game in the series back in 2013. But the ultimate death knell came when the mouse bought the universe, leading to the death of the expanded universe, which included Starkiller's Unleashed Force. Either way, this is one I doubt anyone will be trying for anytime soon.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, well, tell that to EA. Especially since they axed like 2 or 3 single-player Star Wars games, yet here comes another one. Make up your mind! This one is multi-layered on why it's not gonna happen anytime soon, if at all. Not only are real-time strategy games not as big nowadays, I blame MOBAs a little, but there just haven't been as many RTS games these past few years, with the last major RTS being StarCraft 2, if I recall. The RTS game we won't be seeing is Warcraft 4. But what about Warcraft 3 Reforged? Doesn't that mean Warcraft 4 is possible? Nope, and here's why. First off, the only reason we're getting Reforged is because nostalgia. Warcraft in general is nostalgia fuel, and what with classic World of Warcraft out and about, I can only imagine it's them nostalgia bucks motivating this decision. Of course, it's redoing the code, making new graphics. If anything, while not at all simple, it's simpler than making a game from scratch. Especially since the voices and sound effects are reused.
It's exactly the same audio as it was in the original game, right? Exactly the same.
Seriously, unlike the Reignited or Insane trilogies, they seem to be reusing as much as they can. Even the animations seem eerily similar in places. And I don't mean in a, of course it's a remake kinda way. But considering they're cutting back on Heroes of the Storm and going heavier into mobile games,
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah.
there is no way in hell they'd do something like a fully new RTS nowadays. Now, with Reforged in the pipeline, it could be used to see if there's interest in Warcraft RTS games again, but at the same time, with how Activision is seeming to be handling things nowadays, all they seem to be doing is remakes with old IPs. Crash, Spyro, Warcraft! I'm not sure how far I'd trust a company that sells a freaking dot for $1. The real reason Warcraft 4 is so high on this list is because no Warcraft game released by Activision Blizzard would actually be Warcraft 4. The story would be twisted, microtransactions would be shoved into it on top of full price, and more than likely a season pass. Just look at Blops 4's hellscape. And it was so promising. And yes, I would probably say the same thing if they asked the companies behind the Spyro and Crash remakes to make a new Crash or Spyro. Though I would have more faith in them because they're not Blizzard for some reason. I, at least, was a Blizzard fan of their 3 core franchises. But Diablo 3 skunked from the start and still feels super casual after they fixed it. World of Warcraft continues to stifle any future Warcraft RTSs that have a slim chance of coming out anyways. But not only are microtransactions all but guaranteed for both the future of Reforged and the hypothetical Warcraft 4, and doesn't StarCraft 2 have some now as well? Not only will it more than likely be lesser in one way or another, hell, StarCraft 2 is a pain in the ass to play against AI alone because the menus suck. Let me choose my map, damn you! Not because a game called Warcraft 4 won't be released, but because a game that lives up to the title will almost certainly never come. But if it does, and it's good, and it truly is the Warcraft 4 we want or didn't even know we wanted, then I will gladly be wrong. Too bad I won't be. Speaking of games that won't live up to their titles, please Elder Scrolls 6 be good, I beg of you! Number 1 is in a similar vein to places 2 and 3. Ones that we won't see not because they could never happen, but because of companies and untrustworthiness from those who were the chosen ones. The number 1 spot for the game sequel I doubt we will ever get is any Valve sequel ever! It has been 15 years since Half-Life 2 hit stores, 12 from the release of Episode 2, and the last major release was Counter-Strike Global Offensive, itself a sequel to a game 8 years its senior, and it's already getting up there in years. Valve is a shell, kept afloat not by innovative game design or just good games with memorable characters and settings, but instead kept afloat by other people's work on Steam. And if they came out and said, hey, we don't need to make games anymore, so games are no longer our priority, then I would have some level of respect for them. But no, card games for $20 and a sea of free ones! Valve has hardly a need to make a game, let alone a sequel to their beloved classics, so the likelihood they will make anything beyond a cash grab is slim as hell. What is the latest things they've done with actual games? The only things they made since Counter-Strike Go have been Japanese arcade games, Nexon free-to-play Counter-Strike spin-offs, VR headset demos, Bandwagon Battle Royale mode for Counter-Strike Go, a free-to-play Dota spin-off, and failed Hearthstone rip-offs. So failed that it lost 99% of its initial player base in about half a year. Where that $1 million tourney now, Gaben? Half-Life 3 peaked surprisingly not that long ago. The moment that Ryder left Valve and published a copyright-safe version of Half-Life 3's planned story, it was over. Even if they changed the story or were going to change it anyway, it just feels scummy that a Half-Life writer felt it was so bad that releasing it to the public in script form was the only way it was actually going to see the light of day. I can only imagine any game attempt from Valve to be like Evolve. It was ravaged by microtransactions day one with balance issues, and it went free to play before official servers shut down. And it still lasted longer than Artifact. But it's gotten to the point that, kinda like Duke Nukem, if any attempt was made, it would be met with trepidation or even outright hostility by some folks, who have become so alienated by Valve's sole focus on Steam and continued half-assed game creating. Where once their games would be celebrated, quite a few folks would be a bit fearful of a major announcement nowadays, torn between a new Valve game and a new Valve game. I myself would be in the middle because hope. And it isn't unwarranted, the trepidation and tornness, not the hope. This company who once made the legendary Half-Life has fallen so far, maybe too far. Maybe they will actually make Half-Life 3 someday, but I personally doubt it. How can we expect the Half-Life 3 we've wanted all these years or would do justice to the previous games if it would be made by the same company that just doesn't care and keeps itself afloat on the work of others, even if that work is the bastardization of their highest praise series, that is Hunt Down the Free Man? But that's it from me. These have been the top 5 game sequels I just don't see us getting. Whether it be in the conventional sense, like Fez 2 or Force Unleashed 3, to the unconventional, like a potential Warcraft 4 or Half-Life 3. Do you have any game sequel you believe won't see the light of day? If so, mourn them in the comments below. I think that's everything. And this was a cynical video. If you'd like to see a sequel to this video, then click like and maybe subscribe if you'd like to see more, mainly to show you want more from me. If you'd like to stay up to date and see the occasional art from yours truly, then hit up my Twitter or even my Twitch. I'm Neon Icy Wings, and I swear if any announcement is made immediately updating my video, I'm gonna get angry. Gotta fly. Tally-ho!